What is going on, everybody? We are here to keep going on the series of rewatching the MCU, the movies, and we are now at the very first Avengers. We'll be talking about that tonight with Adelia, with Matt. How are you guys doing? And we'll start with you, Adelia. What did you just overall thoughts about the film?
I love this movie. I think it's one of the better MCU movies, especially from the early Phase One. I think this is the best movie out of Phase One. Um, there's not a lot that I dislike about this movie. There's one thing in particular that I absolutely hate, though, and I will discuss that when we get to it. But it's I like this movie a lot.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, I've always thought this was one of the best MCU movies for sure. I always like this one. Um, it's just a good time, and like it's cool because they blended all the tones of all the other characters really well in it. Everything fit well. Yeah, I like this one a lot.
I also like the film. I think most people do like this film. Now, I wouldn't say it's my favorite out of this block all the way up to Avengers. I actually think uh, Captain America, the first Avenger, to me was like a better story, like overall. This right here was a like big, huge, just like I mean, let's be honest, like huge set piece, right? You had the big battle in the middle, the big battle at the end kind of situation going on, all kinds of crazy stuff happening and everything else. There's really not a lot of room for a lot of story in this. You like, but all these characters pretty much, except for the Hulk, because they did change actors when they got to this film. So like Edward Norton had played like Hulk in the actual movie, and then you had a different actor, so it felt a little different. But like all the other characters were like set up in movies leading into this. So I think that like helped this movie out a lot because like you didn't have to explain a whole lot because most people had watched the films or at least before they went and watched this film, a lot of people may have went back even if they didn't see it in theaters, watched the first films like Iron Man and Thor and Captain America and stuff like that to see how these characters were. And then you also got things like Hawkeye and Black Widow involved in those films, told a little bit of their background as well. So you just had all that thing. You didn't have to have like this cohesive story where all the characters got a big, huge like plot line in this film. So I think it actually helped it out.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's not a lot of instances in cinema history where you have these like crossover events. The way Avengers was the first crossover event, really, of the MCU, and I think that they couldn't have done much better with it. Um, they did a really good job of establishing the characters in the movies prior to this, and then bringing them all together, and like Matt said, not losing the characterizations and the tones of those characters.
Yeah. So yeah, my point would be I think to me, Captain America, the first Avenger, was like the best movie of this whole block.
Yeah, yeah,
I like the story and everything, whereas this movie's the oh shit, crap's about to hit the fan. This is gonna be like fun and like oh yeah, I'm gonna eat my popcorn. Like that kind of enjoyment, I could see where people may even like it better because you do get a lot of entertainment in this film. It's all just a bunch of action, almost nonstop, and all that stuff. Um, so yeah, I can see where people like enjoy the film, and it's obviously a film you can just turn on in the background and pay attention to the big moments kind of situation. Like you don't have to be intrigued by every detail of the story and how it progresses. It's just like oh,
yeah,
cool moment, cool moment, cool moment.
yeah. I wasn't able to be on the Captain America one because I was on vacation, but I think that that's probably the best made film of Phase One. This is just Avengers is the one I enjoy the most.
But so the problem a lot of times with movies like this Avengers where you have so many like people involved, so many characters is the fact of not having a story. This film, like I was kind of saying earlier, didn't really have to like rely on that, like being able to tell all these stories in like one film, just because all their stories were already told. So like that gave them the leeway of coming out and having like this great uh, time where they don't have to actually focus on a lot of story. There was story there, but it didn't have to be the focus of the film.
It didn't have to be everyone's backstories and then them
Yeah.
coming together. Yeah.
Right. So I think what happened with, say, like the Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could feel like how bad that was because they didn't have setup. They didn't have anything set up for like the actual Justice League for a couple of members. You had a little bit with Batman, a little bit with Superman, before the Justice League movie, but you didn't have set up for all the rest of the people. So it was just like these different characters kind of thrown in together, and I think they had a big problem because of that. It's like a movie that I don't thoroughly hate or anything, but there's a movie from back in the day, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
Mm-hmm.
where you had a bunch of these characters that were doing things, and it was like, okay, what the hell is going on with this person, and this person? But you tried to do all that setup and all that stuff in one film,
Yeah.
and that's really tough to do. So, like I said, I think this film, like if this would have been the first MCU film, I just don't think it would be loved as much as if
No.
it. But where it lays after they did a setup and all that, and a few films to set it up, I think it was like the perfect kind of like, just set up and go into the film and be able to have fun. But Matt, I mean, you agree with that, or?
Yeah, this was definitely a good way to expand the universe. You know what I mean? To show that there's threats bigger than what we thought of on Earth and shit, and that the crew was able to handle it. Together. Um, this was also the first MCU movie where I really liked the score, like the whole way through
Mm-hmm.
the movie. The rest of them were like kind of cheesy or something, but this one was really good.
Yeah, I don't really have like if you're a person that went into this film and you're trying to break it down for Oscar nominees or something like that, you would probably find issues with it. Or even if you was a person, like I said, that was going to judge this film just basically on its own, and you could probably kind of pick apart some of the story and stuff like that if that's what you were doing. But the only true flaw, because we did have the setup films before this, the only true thing that I saw, like, and I wasn't even thinking about it when I first started watching the film again, but when I did the rewatch, was you could start seeing the things that I'm not liking as we keep going further and further and further into the MCU. It's like this film, you had Colston, the whole fake death situation. It's
Well,
like
I
because
mean,
he's
like
not
let's be clear. Coulson is dead in the movies. He never appears in another MCU movie again, except for Captain Marvel, which is set in the past.
right,
So yeah, they put him on TV, but like as far as the MCU in the films is concerned, Coulson's dead. Tony never finds out that he lived after that. Natasha, Steve, none of them. So
nah. I mean, I get what you're saying, but like,
that
let's be
one's
honest,
different to me than the other ones. Coulson's.
right? No, hey, like I will. I agree with it. It's a little different, but it's like as fans, whenever you're watching stuff, you can't just be like, oh well, like we brought him back, but we didn't bring him back in this particular form. We brought him back because fans watched a decent amount of fans like watched that show
I
that
know.
came on and did like a decent amount of seasons. So
And
that that's
they very clearly did explain in that show that he did die and they brought him back to life.
right,
It's not like a we think he's dead, but he's not actually dead. No, he died and they brought him back to life.
right, and but that has I was going to say something, but it has really nothing to do with this like particular film. But besides
Well,
that, no, I don't
what
have a
was
lot of stuff.
shady though, what
Yeah,
was
go ahead.
shady though was that Samuel L. Jackson put blood on Colson's cards
Yeah, that was shady.
to make him think that it was in his pocket when he got killed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
That
let's
was kind of
be
scary.
honest. I mean, that's kind of true to the character from the comics, if I'm not mistaken. Like, Fury's always kind of been this shady individual.
Yeah.
He's always like gets the Avengers together and whatnot, but he's always doing stuff like kind of
And
crappy. Yeah,
to be fair, right before Coulson does die, he does say they needed the push, basically. Fury just
Yeah,
decided to use the cards to make that point.
right.
It's not cool. It's not cool. Don't get me wrong, but um
I
yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Even back when I first saw these films and stuff like that, I'm not saying like Coulson was like a crap character or anything.
No,
Coulson just
Coulson's
didn't
awesome.
really, yeah, but Coulson didn't really mean all that much to me. Like I thought the guy playing him did good in the parts that he was in,
Yeah, Clark
but I
Gregg was
never,
great.
Yeah, but I never was like truly invested in the character. So when he
I don't
died, I
think
just
you were
thought,
supposed to be invested in the
yeah,
character, though.
yeah. But my point was like, it was like, and plus he didn't interact that much with everybody. Like he had like a little bit of something like in the film, so I get what they were trying to set up. But like when he dies, and then you like kind of like look into that and expect me to believe that all the members of the Avengers is going to come together for old Phil.
But that's not why they did it. The one person who needed that push was Tony, and he got it. And he was the one who interacted with him the most.
I mean, I don't know. He said like the push for the Avengers, but I mean, I get what you're saying. Maybe like because Iron Man was jumping more on the team. Maybe it brought everybody together at that point. But at the same time, that's kind of weird to say when it should probably be Captain America that gets him because he's technically the leader.
It's the conversation between Tony and Cap that makes them figure out where Loki is. And that conversation would not have happened if it wasn't for Coulson's death.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can see that to a certain point. I mean, I
Because
think. Oh,
Tony's the one that figures out that Loki made it personal. But it doesn't say that it's personal to everyone. It was personal to Tony that Coulson died. And why was it personal to Tony? Because Pepper liked him. Pepper liked him enough to know his first name when Tony just thought it was Agent.
right. No, I
So,
can see that part. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely Iron Man would be the one that I would be like, yeah, jumping on board because of that. And everything else. It was just kind of the others, but I was looking at it a little bit differently. Yeah. I don't see any flaws in the logic of what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
It was just when I watched, I was like, bro, this Coulson guy dying ain't bringing everybody together. But I get what your point is. Is like it brings Iron Man more involved, which may then bring everybody else more involved, like in other ways, because. Which I don't
Yeah.
know. Like the world ending is going to bring them together anyway. To me,
Well, yeah, but like at that point in time, they don't know where Loki is going. They don't know where the Tesseract could possibly be. And it isn't until um, Cap has the conversation with Tony about losing. Is this the first time you've lost a soldier? And Tony goes, "We are not soldiers," and realizes that Loki made it personal. That he starts talking about how Loki's a diva. He wants all the attention on him, and that brings him to the conclusion that he's at Stark Tower. Then
yeah.
everybody gets back on board because they know they have to get this done.
All good. I mean, does anybody else like? I was just saying that like seeing him die and then know he came back in the show just reminds me of some of the things I start like not liking as much as we get further and further on. But anybody else? But that was like my only real like flaw. There's like a couple of moments that are kind of goofy or whatever that may or may not be super great. So I'm not saying the film's perfect. It's not. It's far from it. But it is like a really fun film to watch. That was like my real only critique though, that I would be like, but really and truthfully, when I saw the movie the first time, I wasn't thinking about that. When I first saw this, like the first time I watched it, I was like, oh shit, they're at least taking out somebody that's kind of like credible. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be there's real things that happen because of this, right? Like, there are going to be some people that's heads get knocked off so that they can do what they have to do. There's going to be some sacrifices being made and everything else. But then, like when I watch it now, knowing what happens in the future, I'm just like, oh man, this is like the very beginnings of a crack in the foundation that might show up. But no, but did y'all have anything that like y'all would consider like bad or like a flaw with the film, even though obviously we all liked it?
I mean, I do. I absolutely cannot stand what the director of this film, who we refer to on the other editions of the Rewatchers Council just as the creator of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, because we don't want to say his name because he's a piece of shit, had Loki call Black Widow. A lot of people just think that the Mewling Quim comment is a funny haha thing, but that's a Victorian insult, which is the equivalent to the C word, and it is extremely demeaning to say that to a woman. And I don't like that part. I hate that part. I hate that it gets laughs. I hate that they had Tom Hiddleston dress up as Loki and go to Comic-Con the next year and call the audience Mewling Quims. I hate everything about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I'm gonna be honest with you. I just thought it was just some random
It's not. It's Victorian. It's slang. So like from the Victorian era in the UK, but that's what got it past the censors in this country deciding what the rating should be, because what I was reading about it said that Joss Whedon, the guy who directed this film and wrote it, um, was surprised that the censors didn't say anything about it. And it's because no one in this country really knew what it meant. But you got to believe that people went and looked that up after that movie came out, and it
I
is awful.
yeah, I didn't. I thought it was just some kind of where I figured that maybe it was some obviously it was going to be something derogatory because I mean he's
Mm-hmm.
the bad guy. But when it comes to me and bad guy in films and bad guy saying like a certain thing, like it's well, I think all gloves should be off at that point. They're the bad guy. There's a whole point.
Yeah,
But saying something like that to me,
saying
uh,
something like that to one of two female characters in this entire movie, the one who's supposedly the superhero, I have a real problem with.
I mean, I don't know if I have a problem with it because they like she does a pretty decent amount in the film. Like she's a pretty big role. Like she's like a standout. So to me it would make sense that like your bad character would be like trying to go after or even say something to try to when did it because I don't even when's the exact moment like he actually says that to
It's
her.
when Natasha goes and approaches him while he's in the cell on the helicarrier, and says, "What did you do to Barton?" And he, she says, "I have read my ledger. I want to wipe it out." And he says, General Dreykov's daughter, which is reference to what eventually became the Black Widow movie, a couple other things, and he calls her a mewling quim in that scene.
Yeah,
And
but see,
she acts affected by it. Like, I will give Natasha the character credit. She acts affected by it. She probably knows what that means. But that gets Loki to say that they are the ones that brought the monster on board after she calls him a monster. And she turns around and she's dead serious again. And she's like, "So, Banner, that's your play. Thank you." And walks away.
yeah, but I mean, so like to me, I look at the character at that moment because that's where I thought it was, but I wanted to make sure because, like I said, I don't get the reference. I didn't get it either time I watched it, so this is a piece of like information that I have learned tonight. But like to me, in that particular scene, and I just wanted to make sure before I had said anything, is like his whole point was to get her off balance.
Right.
And then like even
I
right
like,
after being called that, like it wasn't like she got called that and fell to the ground and became weak or something because of it. She
of
gets
course
called
not.
that and then like turns around right after that and like shows her strength of like, oh, I fooled you this whole time. Ha ha ha. Now we know what you're after, like situation. So she like caught him in a trap or whatnot, like right after the whole thing's going on. And then to me, the bad guy saying that is like I said, trying to say something to get her to like lose her cool.
Mm-hmm.
And like if that word is like you said, like as bad as what you're saying it is, it makes sense for the bad character to say it because if he said something weaker, that would make the character of like Black Widow like weaker at that point because like oh you can say something not even that offensive and like she's gonna fall apart possibly. But in
Yeah.
this case, he says something like really bad, like one of the worst things you'd possibly want to call a woman, and yet she still stands firm, still does that thing, and then like pulls the trick on him. So to me,
Yeah.
that's not a bad spot for that to be in the film.
Like, I think that this could have just been accomplished without him calling her that. I like everything else about this scene. I don't like those two words being used in conjunction with one another, with the modern equivalent meaning of that phrase from Victorian times being the C word.
No, I mean I kind of get what you're saying, but at the same time, if I'm the one writing the story or if I'm putting together the story, screenplay, whatnot, I'm thinking, okay, this guy's supposed to be the bad one. He's the evil one. He's gonna try to get her. He's gonna try to mess her up or whatever. He's a bad guy. What can be the nastiest thing he would say that we can put in here that would I would literally be thinking what's the nastiest thing he could say like that could possibly get her off balance or like make her character like maybe lose it or for a second or something like that that would make sense for the bad guy to say. So that's why I'm saying I don't necessarily think it's like the most horrible thing, just because of the fact of, if I was making the film, that's what I would have did. Now, maybe if I was making the film and somebody was like, well, you don't need to say a word like that, then to me as a filmmaker, I'm like, well, if I got to be so careful around this particular person and character, well, then we're not just going to use her. We're just going to use guys so that I can just say whatever I want, or have the bad guy say the worst thing ever, and nobody's really going to say a whole lot.
I get what you're saying, but I'm coming at this from a different perspective, probably because I am a woman. And if someone said that to me, I'd deck them. I'm not a violent person or a confrontational person of any kind. Someone calls me a mewling quim, I'm decking them.
Yeah, and you'd be like, but there's a huge difference. Though we're talking about a film that's fictional, and like the characters doing things that you want them to do, and like walking around real life and getting called something like that from a random person. You damn right you should deck them.
Yeah.
So that would be my
that's
argument.
That's just the one thing that I absolutely hate in this movie.
Yeah, I think most people's like me though; they don't even know really what it means. I just think he's saying something stupid ass guardian phrase or something. Just to be honest with you, Matt. Did you even realize what that was?
No, Adelia told me about it. I mean, it's pretty bad.
No, I mean I agree.
would,
Like it's bad, but we're talking about a bad character, and it's like I said, she didn't get like run over from that. Like it would be a little different if the scene was he says that and she like uh so weak that she kind of falls, like, and somebody has to step in and save her. I would be like, okay, that's kind of bad. But
No,
because of the fact,
the writing of Natasha in that scene is great
right,
because they don't have her do that. But just the
right.
mere fact that that's where their mind goes is, oh, we should have him call her this, is something I have a problem with the director and writer of this movie with, not necessarily the movie itself.
Now, and I forgot like it was made by Home Dude, because I know like he had issues or whatever. But like I said, as an outside perspective, it wouldn't be, if I was part of the scene, like writing it or putting it together, it wouldn't be that I would be looking for that particular word or a way to say that particular word when I walk into it. But I would
It
be walking into it of like, I want to have my evil character say some evil shit right here.
I think the reason why they went with the Victorian phrase like that is because it sounds very much in line with the way that Loki and Thor talk.
Yep, and
That
it's
like
sneaky.
Shakespearean kind of thing. It's sneaky, it gets it past the censors, like I said.
Hmm.
Like, I understand to that regard why they said it. I just wish it wasn't in a Marvel movie where now everybody goes around, not everybody, but lots of people go around spouting that phrase off, not knowing what they're actually saying, or
No, yeah.
knowing what they're actually saying and saying it anyways.
Well, I mean, people say that word anyways,
Yeah,
the actual
I
straight
know. It's
word.
like a term of endearment in the UK, but not here.
No, not the way they said it. I'm saying people say that particular word every
Yeah,
day on the street, like in real life, like not even trying to hide it with the phrase that you're
yeah.
talking about.
Well,
But
that's what I'm saying. Like in the UK, the C word is a term of endearment. And like, not to everybody, but to a lot of people, that's what friends call each other. And then here, it's the one of the worst things you could possibly say to a woman. That's my understanding of it, anyways.
no, yeah, and like I said, I totally get you. We're talking about fiction though. Like in real life, people going around throwing that word at like women just to be assholes or whatever. They're assholes, right? That is
Mm-hmm.
the way it is, whatever. But like for a film where you have bad people in it, you sometimes, like I said, my thought process would be creatively, I need to have him say some fucked up shit to try to mess her up. So what are we gonna say? And then I'd probably have a couple of people saying like, well, let's do this, do that, do this. And I'm like, well, I'd probably turn around and look at a woman that's on the team and go, what's the worst thing somebody could call you right now? And they probably said, one of them would probably say, they probably agree with you, right? That probably one of the worst things you could say about a woman now would be that C word. And we'd be like, man, I don't know if I could say that. And then, like I said, they actually do have British people like involved. If I'm not mistaken, Loki is actually like, isn't
Yeah,
he like British or
Tom
something? Yeah.
Hiddleston's British, yeah.
So he might have even brought up, like, I could see this actually playing out for real. I might just be like, seeing the past, I guess, not the future, but like Tom Hiddleston might have been like, well, you can't say that word because we say, like you just said, it's like a term of endearment in the Britain. Like we say this instead of that. And then I could have seen that happen. Like I ain't saying that did, but I could
Yeah.
see that happening. And what I'm saying is if I'm the one that would have did it, I might would have been like, okay, cool. So we kind of skirt around. He gets to say something really bad to one of our main characters that a lot of people like. So it's going to hit real hard. Hell yeah, let's do it. But that doesn't make me like a bad person uh, because we whittle it down to that. Like you know what I'm saying? Like I don't think not everybody that would have came up with that would be like bad people because they ended up using that phrase. Now the problem here is like you said, the director of this film had problems in the past, so like that makes it compounds it kind of thing. But if
Mm-hmm.
this would have been like another director, I don't think you could ever say that he's a bad person for ending up for using that phrase because, like I said, I would have been like, okay, my bad person said something bad. I mean, that's how come we know they're bad. Part of the reason, anyway.
Okay, we've spent too much
Yeah.
time on this. Let's move on.
Hey, be honest with you, I mean, no, I like the discussion because it's something that probably a lot of people don't even bring up very much and everything else. Everybody knows all the other obvious stuff, so I'm
Yeah.
actually glad you brought it up.
Yeah, I get what
But
Adelia's saying though. In a PG-13 Disney movie, like you don't need to hear that kind of insult.
I mean, to be fair to them, this wasn't a Disney movie at the time, but this was the last
Oh
movie
yeah.
that was distributed by Paramount. But
mhm.
yeah, I don't think it needed to be in this movie. Just the same with a joke that he wrote into Age of Ultron that I was telling Matt about earlier that we'll get to when we get to Age of Ultron. Didn't need to be in there either.
All right, Matt. I mean, did you have anything to add? Like that was kind of like a flaw or
Um,
something?
just like when I was watching it, I told Adelia I was like, I don't think Hawkeye and Black Widow should be on the Avengers. To be honest, like, yeah, they're like elite, soldiers and spies and shit. But like when it comes down to it, and shit's going super crazy, like, they could get hurt
Yeah.
easily as
Uh,
fuck. Like,
I'm not gonna lie, and this ain't either Black Widow or Hawkeye as far as like I think they do pretty good. The in their acting and what they're doing. But I do agree that like when you're fighting against something that the Avengers have to fight against, and
yeah,
they're standing right there next to them. That's whenever I get thrown out. Them being like Black Widow, for instance, going and doing undercover stuff to find out information that the team needs so that the Avengers can go and attack, or Hawkeye being there for like a supporting role where they got him basically in a sniper position, like taking things out from afar. He's not right there in the action. And they actually do that a little bit in this movie, which I thought was
Mm-hmm.
kind of cool on his part. But yeah, I gotta admit, there's times where like Black Widow and Hawkeye both like are in the middle of the action, standing right next to the Avengers, and I'm like, bro, this ain't happening. I did think that it wasn't like so bad that it completely threw me out of the movie, but yeah, it's like you look at these two regular humans; they don't have any true special powers except for being peak humans that like learn how to do certain things and maybe got a couple of tools to help them out. But it's like, bruh, they're probably not gonna be able to withstand
just
things.
one explosion by them or some shit, and
Yeah,
shrapnel or
exactly.
you know what I mean. Like anything could
Yeah,
fucking
I
kill them.
totally agree. I
Yeah,
totally agree with that.
I will
They were
say.
doing some shit across the board. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say I do like that they do sort of address that though in the Hawkeye series, where Hawkeye is basically deaf and has to have hearing aids to hear people because of all the explosions and stuff that he's been around. But I kind of agree. Like the original
Well,
lineup
he
of the
even
Avengers in
said,
the go ahead, Matt.
"Go ahead, sorry. No, you go ahead."
I was gonna say the original lineup of the Avengers in the comics is Ant Man, Hank Pym Ant Man, and Janet Van Dyne the Wasp. So they wanted to cast those two characters as older and have the younger Ant Man because by this point in time, Phase 2 was well into development. So I think they just decided to put Black Widow and Hawkeye on the Avengers and go with it. And it doesn't necessarily always work. But it is kind of
Yeah,
funny that the two of them are there with one with a bow and arrow and the other with just a gun fighting alongside the rest of the
yeah, that's
Avengers.
what I was gonna
Yeah.
say. Even in Age of Ultron, Hawkeye says, "I'm just a guy, the bow and arrow."
None of this
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Right. So yeah, that would be my like that is also I do agree with that flaw because like I said, I did think about it enough. But like I said, it wasn't enough to like ruin the film or anything like that. But there was moments where I was like, bro, get the hell out of here. And then there was moments like I said, especially with Hawkeye, because he was set up on a perch, like being away from a lot of it, and he was shooting things from a distance or whatnot. That like I was like, that's cool that they did that. They kind of got him out of danger a little bit, or as much of a danger. And I'm fine with that kind of stuff. Like I said, I'm cool with like Black Widow doing undercover thing, getting herself in some danger and finding out, like for instance, finding out where Loki could have been in this movie, if the story was told a little differently or she was doing some other stuff. But yeah, when she's standing next to like the Hulk or Thor or even Hawkeye doing the same thing, it's like, bro, what the fuck y'all doing, man?
Or when Captain America launches her up and she grabs onto that Chitauri bike and
Yeah,
shit. Like,
yeah. It's like, bro, you're human. Like, I don't know. You would have tore. Listen, bro. Something happened to me yesterday where I got like rained on for a long time with a flat tire, so I had to be physical. Then I had to go to work and finish up work, being soaking wet. Guess what? That was a bad day, right? But that's not end of the world bad day. And you know what? I had to walk around today with soreness because of the fact that I had to walk around yesterday being wet, like in certain areas. It is very uncomfortable. It's because I'm human. I am weak, right? No matter how strong I seem to be, there are certain things that can make us weak. And then when you're human like that and you're thinking about the characters also being human, you're like, man, she would have tore like a fucking quadricep or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like something.
yeah.
She would have had like some muscle or ligament or
You see how many
shoulder
aliens
get
came out
hurt.
of that shit? Like, they would have
Yeah.
been fighting nonstop for like a half hour. Like,
Oh no, yeah, exactly. Like, and you can agree that Thor's a god. Iron Man's wearing a suit that's assisting him the whole time. The Hulk turns into like the big green monster that just gets madder and madder and madder and madder and madder until like he can't get madder anymore. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like when you're around there, and then Captain America, he's got the super serum, like obviously that makes him like a superhero. And then you have those two, and it's like, bro, they would be tired in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And because of the scene and how big it is and everything, it's like you're imagining to yourself, oh, this has been like 30, 40 minutes to an hour of just shit out craziness, and you're still able to even move as a human being is ridiculous. Like, to be honest, when you really look at it. So I guess that would be a flaw as well, and I totally agree with it. Yeah. But we'll go through, talk about like maybe our favorite moment in the film real quick. I mean, obviously, the reason why I was asking the question about like that for like negative things in the film is because obviously from the very beginning we talked about how much we already love the film. So it's like not fun just talking about, oh yeah, of course we like everything everybody else has always said. So it's kind of cool to dive into the negativity of something that everybody actually likes.
Real quick too, while we were watching it, I told you, I was like, why would the council send a nuclear missile to hit Manhattan when the hole is in the sky that they're all coming from? Like, what is a bomb hitting the ground going to do?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it would fuck some things up, obviously. And then
obviously.
I mean, maybe the things from the sky would be looked down and go, oh, shit, there's a nuke. Let's stop until all the nuclear fallout's done or something. I don't know. But yeah, you're right. You're right. That was kind of stupid, too. But this is the point. I've said this many a times here recently. Here's the point. There's a couple of stupid-ass things. Mm-hmm. But you're willing to mentally just ignore them or choose to forget them because the rest of the film is done very good and it's very fun.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't as fun and wasn't as great and like the big set pieces they used, like the battle on the ship and then the battle in Manhattan, if all those things didn't look really super cool and it was so fun and entertaining and all that, you would just be like, oh, this movie's garbage, right? And then you would add those things to the list of things you didn't like. But because the movie's so damn fun and everything to watch and entertaining to watch, like, yeah, whatever. You just let it go.
Also, Adelia brought it up that it's funny that all the Chitauri just die because that nuclear bomb went off in space.
Yeah, you blow up the control ship and all of them die instantly.
Yeah, I never looked into Chitauri, so if they're like a hive mind and you hit the thing that controls the hive mind, then that would make sense, right?
That would make sense, but I don't know if the Chitauri are like that.
Bro, we talking about like, listen, man, you know where I came up with that? Because Star Wars and the battle droids, baby. They hit the one ship up there at the top, boom, knocked them out, and everybody. It didn't even cross my mind until y'all just said it. That only way that makes sense is hive mind capabilities. And when the hive gets, like, the mind gets taken out, like, all of them kind of lose control and just, like, cease to exist kind of situation. But I ain't never looked into that alien race, so I don't know how they actually work. It might be dumb as hell, right? Like, Somebody can look
I
that
don't
up.
I don't know how the Chitauri work in the comics, if
If,
they're even from the comics or something. I don't
if
know.
somebody watches this and knows about the Chitauri, put that comment down there as if this makes sense or not for them to just start passing out because like their home planet or wherever it was got blown up by a nuke. But with that being said, like yeah, let's go around say like our favorite moment, and we'll get out of here. We've already been talking about the movie for about 35 minutes. Adelia, what's if not your favorite, one of your favorite moments?
I really like. I think that there are some movies in the MCU that they do way too many jokes and way too many quips, but I really liked most of the quips in this movie. I thought that the 12% joke between Tony and Pepper was really funny, where Tony said Pepper deserves 12% of the credit for Stark Tower, and there's an argument for 15%, and then he realizes he's going to pay for that joke later on, and he says, after Coulson shows up, he says, I thought we were having a moment, and Pepper throws it back in his face. I was having 12% of a moment. I thought that was really funny. Lots of stuff in this movie is really funny to me. My favorite scene, though, is probably when they're all in on the helicarrier, and Tony and Bruce are trying to figure out what phase 2 is, and Cap's arguing with them about, like, focus and find the tesseract and stuff like that, because he's very much in soldier mode. But he, after listening to them for a few minutes, goes and does something that you would think would be very uncap like from looking at the um, previous movie, the first Avenger, and breaks into that room, and the computer going too slow for me. Here's what phase 2 is, and it's weapons. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's an interesting character development for Cap that I didn't really expect in this movie, and it didn't really occur to me that that was a massive character development for Cap until I watched Winter Soldier, because he does more stuff like that there.
Gotcha, Matt.
This movie has a lot of cool moments and shit. But my favorite overall is when Hulk just ragdolls Loki
That's
and just
great.
like bam, 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 bam. That's what it would be like, man. If that dude's really that strong, he'd just ragdoll people.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah,
was
and
funny
that's
to
the
see
funny
that.
part is like you're doing it to a god because like anybody else would be just tore up and dead. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why like in some ways Hulk can be kind of overpowered, and but to me it's like you can have fun with that and even have things. I think from here forward they start like kind of just cheapening the Hulk, and they're doing it on purpose to make it to where oh this ain't an automatic win because in some cases with the Hulk being involved and it being as strong as the Hulk can be, like some of those things he'd be overpowered for or whatever as far as just brute strength. So I get why they tried to like do it, but it was like, man, I wanted to see the Hulk, right? I wanted to see the daggum Hulk, and every time he turned around, it was like, oh, Hulk can't be there for some reason, or he's not turning into the Hulk no more. That stuff got old as we go later on, but it was fun in this movie to see the Hulk actually be unleashed. So I agree, that was a really cool moment. My favorite moment of the film is actually going to be super underrated by some. I really loved it. Scarlett Johansson done awesome was whenever she's like, caught towards the beginning of the movie when they go to, she was about to go get
Oh,
Hulk.
that's a
She gets
great
told to go get
scene.
Hulk, where she's like, I guess it's with a couple of Russians or something like that, and she's like tied to the chair. I just thought it was a really cool moment because like it's kind of funny with the phone thing that happens whenever she gets called, and then she basically rats out herself, and that dude's like, "What?" And he turns around, and looks at her, and then she's able to fight her way out of it. But I just think it's super awesome because it's like uh, one of those really good like somebody kind of understanding some things and like really to me writing a strong female in a good in that particular moment because like uh, her like using her intelligence and wildness, and let's be honest right here with Scarlett Johansson playing the character as Black Widow, uh, just ravishing good looks, right? To be able to
Hmm.
get what she needs and learn everything and putting herself in this like position and then being able to surprise them is like super awesome, and it's really fun when it's done right.
Yeah.
So
She was great in that scene. It's the last time I think we get to see her as a spy, because now she's a public facing member of the
and
Avengers.
did they show any like older scenes with her? I can't remember that much with Black Widow the movie.
I don't think so, because that's set so far in the future compared to where they
Well,
are
but I know they
here.
go back in the past and they show like how
They
she was
show
kind
like
of
a they
created, and
show like a flashback to um, Budapest and Dreykov's daughter, but you don't really see her do that much in the way
okay.
that you see her do it in this scene.
Well, all right, guys, we got to give our ratings that we're going to be putting on Letterbox as a community kind of deal. We've been doing it on the last few that we've done here, so we will go around here at the very end and give out our Letterbox. I think it's 1 through 5, so that's the way
Hmm.
we have to be scaling it. Adelia, what was your final score of the Avengers?
Um, I would give the Avengers a 4.
Okay, giving it a 4. Matt Munoz.
I'd give this movie a 4.5. I thought it was really good.
4.5. You
Mhm.
literally, every time I kept trying to get away from negativity, you kept bringing up a negative thing in a movie I wasn't even thinking about. My score probably got lowered because of you, and you're going to say all that and give it a 4.5?
Yeah,
Okay.
just because honestly, this is one of those ones that I've rewatched more than any of the other ones for sure.
Okay. I'm going to, man, it's harder with the, like the rating when you're used to kind of rating a certain thing. So, like, one of the things I've been doing, because I think it's just easier for me to be able to break down and be able to say is like so I'm going to give my letter grade but then give my number grade. So my letter grade, which is the easier one to do, is like a B plus on this film. I do think that like it gets help because of all the story and backgrounds. Like if you watch this movie on its own, I think some people could even give it a lower grade than what I just gave it, but it's a B plus because I love it and it's super fun. But it is missing a couple of things. But like I said, if you watch the movies before this, you don't need those other things that a normal movie would need, right, to be super great. So it's still ranked pretty high, B plus, and I would give it what would it be? I don't really want to give it like a 4, so I guess I'm gonna have to go 3.5. Go 3.5 stars on it, and I don't think you can do on Letterbox like 3.7 or anything. I think you got to go
Mm-mm.
like half
It's
numbers.
half.
So I'm because I'd be like, if I was doing 1 through 5 and I could just give it any kind of thing, I would almost give it a 4. It's like way up there. So I'm just gonna round down though. I'm just gonna say 3.5. One of y'all guys said 4.5. One of y'all said 4. And maybe we can text Ferris to see what he thought about the
We'll get
movie and then
Ferris's score for sure. Yeah.
yep and put it on the thing. With that being said, man, guys, we are getting out of here right now. Please like, subscribe, do all those things. Got a banner floating at the bottom that tells you things that you can go do. We got new merch, new designs on the merch, thanks to Adelia. They look pretty good. We also have the Patreon and the Ko-Fi or whatever if you want to join those, and then you can join our Discord for free. Come in and join in these conversations, or maybe even watch some of these movies with us. Or if you get on certain tiers, you can come on here like Matt does and join us when we talk about these certain things. Don't be afraid. You ain't got to get on camera and stuff with the Patreons or the Ko-Fi members. However it is that you want to come on here, if you can come on here, that is perfectly fine and dandy with any of those things. And thank you guys. Please leave a comment. Tell us what you thought about the movie. And if I skipped anything, Adelia.
I don't think so.
All right. Well, let's get the hell out of here. Until next time. Peace out, man. Bro, every time I say that, I hesitate because I'm like fitting to try to hit the right thing at the right time. And then I always look at the wrong screen or wrong side. So here we go, guys. Until next time, peace.